Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of High School Basketball Weekly here on channel 1302 Northern Berkshire Community Television. I'm Rick Bua, and this week I'm joined by John Franzoni. And John, as Tim Morey mentioned on this program last week, he said, Rick, we're getting down to the end of the season. It's really hard to believe we're into the month of February. And the teams that we cover locally, there are a few teams that had 3 games left, a couple with 2, and the Hoosick Valley Hurricane girls are down to 1 regular season game. Time just flies right by.
Yeah, especially with this new format that they use with the state tournament. I mean, you used to always get your regular season stretching into the first part of the February vacation week for the kids, but now with the state tournament, they're playing 18 regular season
18,
games, and
yeah.
then they count the first 2 anyway, the of the Western Mass tournament for those teams that make it in advance, and that's a nice advantage to have that during the February vacation week. But it certainly changes things for teams and how they prepare. And of course, this is a time of year when teams want to be playing their best and getting healthy and preparing for their tournament run.
Absolutely. So as we sometimes do, John, kind of flip a coin, but we're going to start with the girls, and we're going to start with the McCann-Tech Hornets. And it took them a while to get their first win. They got a couple wins now. They've been playing better basketball. It doesn't always show. They did lose to Lee 57-20. They lost to Granby 47-26, and just got edged out by Smith Volk at 36-24. But overall, they're playing better basketball than they did earlier in the season, I think.
Yeah, definitely. They've had a couple of close wins over the last month or so to get their first 2 on the season. Had some good efforts by some younger players like Faith Brazo and Aiden Champney to help them win these games. And, Coach Kratz doing a great job with his team. They're clearly improving as the year goes on and playing some good close games, which is only going to help them improve and get better as they advance into the future with the Hornet ladies team.
Yeah, there's a few young ladies down there, too, that we don't have a chance to mention all the time. And one of them is Madison Rougeau. She and Brooke Reynolds were the leading scorers in the league game. So, and you're right, it usually is Aiden Champney and Faith Brazo that we're talking about as their leaders, at least in the scoring. And then they got 6 points apiece from Reynolds, Amaya Todd, and Champney again in the Granby loss. And then the heartbreaker, 36-34 against Smith Volk. They trailed by 8. Their comeback just fell short and just got edged out. Again, Madison Rougeau and Todd each scored 9. Brazo and Champney had 6. So it's not just 2 kids. And as you know, Coach, you don't need to have a lot of double-figure scores if you get balanced scoring.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was reading that was their senior night in that game against Smith Volk, and I think it was Brooke Reynolds and Amaya Todd are the seniors on the team, showing great leadership according to Coach Kratz. And that's the nice thing about their team. There's good balance. You see 4 or 5 names in this write-up here, and it's showing that they're getting a lot of contributions, and that's only going to benefit them as they go forward. And
they are going to be at Pathfinder tomorrow night, and if the weather should be cleared up by then, so hopefully they'll make the trip down there and come away with a win at Pathfinder. Moving to John Jacoby's Mount Greylock Mounties. They are at 5-10 right now. They've been a little slump, 1-8 in the league. They fell to Pope Francis 64-38. Maddie Powell led the way with 14. Lauren Powell had 8, and lost their 5th in a row to Pioneer Valley in a very, very close ball game, John, 33-28.
Yeah, it's been a tough stretch for Coach Jacoby's team. I know I think they were 5-5 at one point, and but they've had some tough games against teams like Pope Francis, Drury. Those are tough matchups for them. They've lost a few close ones, and they have a really tough one coming up Friday night at Pittsfield. So the schedule doesn't get any easier this time of the year for teams, and you're really matching up with all tournament-ready teams, which will only make them better.
Yeah, as you said, they're going to be playing the Pittsfield Generals, and we don't often get an opportunity within a 30-minute program, John, Tim and I, to talk a lot about the Central and South Berkshire teams, but the Pittsfield girls are really making a great season together. They've really put it together. They only have 1 loss, and they're going to be playing Drury in a ball game that happened last night that we're going to be talking about next week, and then they've got the one that you just talked about with Greylock. So, you'll find out what your team's all about when you play the Pittsfield Girls, because I think possibly they could be the best overall team in at least Berkshire County.
Right, that's a team that seems like they have a lot of depth too. You see different double-digit scores for Pittsfield, and it sounds like they present a lot of challenges with some full-court pressure as well. So that'll be a huge test for Drury, and then followed up by a tough road game for Mount Greylock.
Yeah, just to conclude, in talking about the McCann-Tech Hornet girls and the Greylock girls, they are still very, very young, and we do say that in this program quite often. And Coach Jacoby he gets the best out of his kids. Coach Krantz is building a program. This is going to take a little bit of time, only in the second season. So as long as those younger kids keep progressing, their programs will get stronger as they go on.
Right, talking about two veteran coaches, had a lot of success in their careers, and that's what the thing with the players, just stay focused, don't get frustrated, and listen to your coaches because they're going to help you improve.
We'll move now to Coach Ian Downey's Drury Blue Devils, and they had a real tough time against a scrappy Taconic team, a team that Greylock had beaten twice this year, and on paper, which you don't play on paper. I thought that Coach Downey's team would have a little bit easier time, even down at Taconic, but they got by the Thunder 59-51 in overtime. I did talk to Coach Downey the night after, because we were up doing the Belchertown game, and he said, we just didn't play well. He said, I hope we play better tonight, and they did, but they did not play well, but they still came out with a win. And in that ball game, freshman Addison Shepard led the way with a career game high 17. Ashlyn Hayden had 11. Jacinta Felix had 10. Drury led 17-11 after one. The game was tied at 23 at the half. Was tied at 47 after regulation. But they found a way, and good teams do find a way to scratch and claw your way back.
Yeah, it's a nice road win. I mean, anytime you're playing midweek at a Berkshire County team on their own court, you're going to get a battle. And Drury had just lost. We had done the Hoosick game where they lost a tough one there. Then they lost to Wacona on Monday night. So going down to Taconic on a Wednesday and having a struggle there, that's a great win for the Drury Lady Blue Devils, and they followed it up with a nice win over Belchertown next night. So, coming into some tough games against Pittsfield and some others to finish up their season, that was a great win to turn things around a little bit and get the back-to-back wins on the following night at home.
Well, Coach Downey, as I just said to me, I hope I played better against Belchertown. They certainly did. It's a game that we broadcasted here on Channel 1302. They came away with a really hard-fought 50-39 win over Belchertown, avenging an earlier season loss by 6 points down there in Belchertown. And as usual, Drury got balanced scoring, and it was led by Hannah Lacasse with 9. Jacinta Felix and Ashlyn Hayden each scored 8. Lily Moranti and Addison Shepard scored 7. Eva Moser had 6. So that is a recipe for a win most times. Again, you don't need the double digits as long as you get balanced scoring.
Right. I mean, Drury seems to obviously have great depth with, their senior scorers are leading the way with Lacasse and Felix, but also they're getting valuable contributions from the younger players. Addison Shepard seems to be stepping up recently, Lily Moranti as well. The Hayden girls are playing well, so Eva Mosier. So there's always some different options to go to. We saw them play Hoosick. I think they went 11 deep that night. So it's, sometimes it can be tough because with young players, you maybe don't get the consistency every night, but by getting valuable playing time and playing against these tough opponents like Wacona and Taconic and Hoosick Valley, it's only going to make these young players even better, especially as they head into their tournament season where they're going to be a threat both in the Western Mass tournament as well as the Division V tournament.
And the game, John, between the Pittsfield Generals and Drury that was played last night, we will report on this show next week. And now we're going to move to the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes, and they've got one game left. It's against Amherst Pelham, and they stand at 14-3 overall, 9-2 in the league, and they defeated Munson 51-35. Actually trailed 15-12 after one. Very, very atypical for Coach Frederick's squad, but they did take a 5-point lead at the half and took over from there in the second half. In this ball game, ninth grader Genevieve Lagasse, who has been playing incredible basketball, led the Hurricanes with 16. Isabella Close had 10. And if you notice, I did not mention Emma Meswar or Ashlyn LaShore, and they scored and they played and they all played well. But that's just telling you the depth that Coach Frederick has with those Lady Canes.
Right, and that makes them even more dangerous. I mean, Lagasse has certainly been coming on recently. We saw her score 16 against Drury in a game that we covered on on the station, and now she followed up with another 16 against a really tough opponent. So when you start getting more scoring contributions, and as you head to the tournament, teams are going to be focused on shutting down LeSure and Meswar. So it's going to be important for those other players to be ready to step up and put the ball in the hoop.
And for her efforts, we have chosen ninth grader Genevieve as this week's Girls Player of the Year. 16 against Munson, as you can see, 12 against South Hadley. We're going to talk about the South Hadley game in just a moment, but this young lady has really come on strong from the beginning of the year. She has really progressed. And you want to talk about kids progressing through the season. She's right at the very, very top of our list, and she was very worthy of Player of the Week here for the girls. In that game against Hadley, which again we broadcasted on Channel 1302, the Hurricanes stuck right in there and came out with a really hard-fought 56-53 win in overtime over the Tigers. South Hadley came in with only one loss. That was you can see overtime here. This is all overtime basketball.
Riddick's going to get it.
Ashland LeSure is going to drive the lane, put it in,
all the way to the
and
hoop.
score.
And
The
scoring!
Hurricanes scored on their first 4 possessions of overtime.
So hard.
And here's 8th grader
Riddick for a
Gianna
long
Whittick
three.
nailing a
Trades
3
it!
with nobody guarding her.
LeSure
Here's
changes
LeSure.
hands.
Nice
Foul
dish
pass
to
to
Leguess
Leguess.
off the
Puts
glass.
it
The
in
lefty,
off the
easy to
glass.
put in. And here's the same play all over again. It's not
overtime thus far.
it's a different play, but
Gonna
it's the
use a
same
little clock
result.
here.
LeSure's going to look for that lane with the left hand. She's going to dish
None. The
off the
ball
glass
crashes
and
in,
score.
up and in.
As I said, they scored on their first 4 possessions of overtime, and South Hadley never went away. They made a game of it, and believe it or not, John, they actually got the last shot off. They would need a baseball pass and a catch and a shot. They weren't able to do that. They tried to get the ball in bounds. They weren't able to, but they did have an opportunity. But that's a great win after losing to that team by double digits not too long ago.
You know, a couple of things. Yeah, I mean, they lost by, I think, 22 on the road to South Hadley, so to bounce back and beat them a few weeks later at home is a great win for Huzik. You know, those clips are, to me, very key because you see multiple players contributing. You see the 8th grader knocking down the 3. You see the, 2 dishes from LeSure to the 9th grader for 2 great baskets by Leguess. So, I mean, one thing I really liked about those finishes, too, by the young post player is that, we used to work really hard on players of being shot ready. And you can see her as the drive was going to the basket, she had her hands ready, she was bent at the knees, she was ready to catch the ball and explode to the basket. And she did that with strong moves both times. So if she had gotten bumped on those, she would have been fine. And that's what we talk about a lot, is don't play to the contact, go strong to the basket. If the contact comes, you'll be fine going through it as long as you're not playing for it.
So the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes, because of their efforts in the MIA Power Rankings, which come out this week, you can see the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes at 14-3, seated at number 1 in D5 in the state of Massachusetts. Renaissance, a Western Mass school, still undefeated, as is number 5 Lennox. Right behind them, the Drury Blue Devils, based on their strength of schedule and the results of the teams with good records, and Pioneer Christian still 14-0, the Lee Wildcats there. But that's wide open, but I like Hoosick Valley's chances. And you can see some of the conferences, the Western Mass leagues that we don't talk about that often. Lee in Franklin West in second place, McCann also in that league. Lennox at 15-0, 9-0 in the league. Of course, one of the great suburban leagues. South Hadley is going to win that, with Hoosick Valley finishing second. That was my prediction of 1-2 this year, one way or another. And Agawam is going to win the Girls Central. But Drury is tied with Belchertown, and they split with Pope Francis. So they're right up there. And you can also see the other 2 Berkshire schools in there. So it's not open right now, but what the power rankings come out I think Tuesdays and Fridays, twice a week, and it's very interesting to look at how they're done, and it's quite a thing the MIAA put out. But it seems to be working out a lot better. We're going to move to the boys now, and we're going to start with the McCann Tech Hornets. They're sitting at 6-10. They have not won a league game this year. Still looking for their first win in the league. They did defeat Gateway pretty easy, 59-32. Zach Howland had 11, Musa Thompson 8, Craig Field had 7. So Thompson and Field, a couple of Coach Bullett's players we don't talk about very often. It was good to see them getting into the scoring column and leading their teams. They lost what I consider, John, a pretty darn good effort against Duggan. Duggan is undefeated. They beat the Hornets pretty easily at home, but were able to pull out a 48-36 win at McCann. But, it's a 4-possession game, 12 points. And that's quite an effort by Coach Bullitt's team against a very solid Duggan team.
Yeah, like we talked about with the Who's It girls. I mean, you're looking to improve in this time of the year. You're looking to see what adjustments have the coaches made, what adjustments have the players made, and how are you improving throughout the years? Because coaches want their players and their teams ready to compete in February, right? You want to play against the best teams. You want to show your improvement you've made during the season. And by these types of efforts that we're seeing with the local teams, you can see the improvement, the adjustments they're making to be prepared for the tournament. Coaches are trying to get their players healthy as well. So it's nice to see the local teams really making these improvements and adjustments as the season goes on.
The only game that we didn't bring up that McCann played last week was against Ludlow, and Ludlow pulled away in the second half to defeat the Hornets 51-32. McCann only trailed 17-50 in a very low-scoring first half, but got outscored 34-17 in the second half. Zach Howland, who has been continuing to shine and be the leader in scoring for Coach Bullitt, led the way with 16 points. He also had 9 with Jack Dolan in the Duggan game. So, again, a very good effort against all these teams, and they've come out on the winning end periodically. Probably not where Coach Bullitt was hoping. A little atypical. They're usually a squad well above 500 this time of year. But again, a lot of new players and a lot of young players. So Coach Bullitt will get the best out of his kids as they progress to conclude the season. Switching to the Mount Greylock Mounties, they're still winless. The boys are. Coach Tommy Verdell's kids seem to be playing a lot better basketball. The scores are very respectable. They did have one game last week postponed against Lee, and with a very poor second half, fell to Smith Academy 54-32. Game was 21-17 at the half, but they just didn't have a very good second half. Nolan Barnes continues to be the leading scorer for the Mounties. He had 12 points, and on Friday they'll be at Athol, and I'm really, really hoping that these kids, John, can pull one out late in the season because they play some close ball games lately.
Yeah, they've played some tough teams, some close defeats. Nolan Barnes had a real solid season as a double-digit scorer. I think one of the top 10 scorers in the county this year. And they're playing a lot of young players. I mean, two of their best players are both sophomores. They're playing 8th graders. So when you're playing that many young players, sometimes it can be frustrating because you're playing against veteran teams, but you got to keep your head up, keep improving, just like we said with the girls' teams. Listen to your coach, keep battling through these end-of-the-year games, and get yourself prepared going into the off-season to be better, stronger, coming back for the new season.
We'll move on, John, to the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes. Coach Robinson's kids don't have the record that they're used to. I mean, they only had 3 losses all last season. But they play in a very tough conference, and their independent schedule's been really tough. They played in the Hoop Hall Classic. Don't let, and we show the power rankings a little bit later for the boys, don't let their record, get into the way of the way they're actually playing or the efforts that they have. They're at 6-8 right now, 4-4 in the league, and they fell to Monument Mountain for the second time. 86-50. And John, there's no shame there. That is one whale the team Randy Colas has down there.
Yeah, Monument's been the class of Berkshire County the last 2 years. I know they lost to Pittsfield in the finals last year, but Monument has been the strongest program the last 2 years. Coach Colas has some real tough players. I read that Manny Brown scored his 1,000th point this week. They lost Khalil Carson, but the whole rest of the team came back. So losing down there on their big night for their star player scoring 1,000 points. Hoosick came out and took a 10-0 lead in that game, so they really attacked them early. But when you have the depth and the scoring that Monument does, it's hard to hang with them, especially, I remember many tough battles in that gym. That's a tough place to play, and it's a good place to toughen your team up, and I'm sure Coach Robinson will use that message to get his kids ready for the tournament. And
as they have all season long, 9th grader Trey Moynihan and junior Aiden Wicks led the way, each with 18 points, and they've led along with Cornell Bradley. The 3 of them have been the scoring leaders all the way through, and they're underclassmen still, so they're all going to be back, and that says a lot for Coach Robinson's
program.
program.
One thing I would say is, I'm sorry about that, Rick,
yeah,
is that all these teams, Hoosick, Greylock, and McCann, all lost strong senior veteran leaders last year who weren't just good leaders, but were, they're leading scorers, they're, playing a lot of minutes.
Right.
So
yeah.
it just season just showing for both of them that it's, it's tough sometimes. So that adjustment to being a varsity player is a big jump. So these teams are showing that they can score sometimes and score points in these games, but can you dig and get the stops? Can you score on one end, but then dig in and play great defense? And also, sports is a great teacher too, adversity, right? So it's easy to play the game when things are going your way. How do you react when things don't go your way? And that's something that last year they relied on those veteran seniors to make those plays, but they're not there anymore. So this time of the year, everybody's grown up, everybody's gotten used to their role, but are you learning to make those winning plays, not just at the end of the game, but in the first quarter, second quarter, so your opponent doesn't get that run and put you away. So It's really important that these teams are listening to their coach's strategy. We're talking about all veteran coaches here who've had a lot of success. Stick with them. They're going to get you there.
For the Drury Blue Devils, we'll conclude the boys with the Blue Devils. They swept the season series with Lennox this year, this time at home, 58-36. Jorge Bond led the way for Drury with 23. Sam Mormon had 9, 6 apiece for Connor Hinkle and Lucas Hamilton. And in a ball game that we did not broadcast on Northern Berkshire Community Television, but I did go and watch because I wanted to see Coach Thayer's team. The number one ranked team in D5 in Massachusetts, the Pioneer Valley Panthers, took Drury down 53-36 in a game that was closer than the score indicated. It really was. Drury was down 13-10 after one, and only 21-17 at the half, but they got outscored 20-5 in the third. And they were right back, played well in the fourth quarter, just did not have any offensive flow in the third quarter. And a little bit of pressure determined the outcome of the differential in the scoring between Pioneer and Drury in that quarter. But they hung with them most of the way. Jorge Bond, the only Blue Devil in double figures with 15. Sammy Mormon again had 9. And they've got, they're going to be, on Friday, they're going to be at Frontier, and that will conclude their league season. They are 11-5 overall, 8-3 in the league. And, of course, next week we've got the big one up at Drury on Tuesday, February 11th. Yours truly, John Franzoni and Tim Morey. We will be at the Bucky Village Gym. Big boys matchup between the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes and the Drury Blue Devils. We will be live here on channel 1302, Northern Berkshire Community Television. Simulcast also on WMNBLP 107.1 FM with a special edition, as we did with the girls game, at 6:30. We will be live Basketball Weekly. Again, John Franzoni, myself, and Tim Morey. And during that half hour before the game at 7, we will be announcing the top 10 boys players of all time for Drury High School and from Adams/Hoosick Valley High School. It's going to be interesting. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is not what John or I or Tim say. Our lists are all different, but we're taking all information from all sports fans and sports enthusiasts in the area. We've been doing this for weeks and weeks. We've got a lot of people that have stopped by and will talk to us, will give us their opinion, will call us, text us, and so we're generating the information. It's going to be a community-wide effort on choosing the top 10 of all time at those two wonderful schools. And to take a quick look, John, if we can, at the power rankings for the boys. We've got, see, in D4 right now, Clinton High School. Number 4 is Monument Mountain. So you can imagine how strong number 1, 2, and 3 are. Monument Mountain at 15-1 is a number 4. And Monument Mountain, as you know, John, their only loss was a game where they actually had a 25-point lead in the first half. So.
Right. I'll point out, too, I saw the Wacona boys play at home against Drury a week ago on Friday, and it was a close game. Drury was up 2 at the half, and Wacona came out in the second half, shot the lights out, got the lead in the third quarter, and kind of similar to what happened in the Pioneer game to Drury, Wacona just took it to them in the fourth quarter to win by double digits. And Wacona's a strong, I mean, one thing you see with like Drury's playing a lot of young players, so you could really see a physical difference in that game. The Wacona team starts some older veteran players, and just physically they were stronger than Drury in that game. And it was a good experience for the Drury because, I mean, 8th grader Braden Durant came in and scored 10 points in the second half for the Blue Devils. But what Wacona do is they really shut down Miles and Norman in the second half. So that's going to be the key for Drury going to the tournament is who steps up when those two kids are getting all the focus from their opponent in the tournament. Can Sam Bullitt step up? Can Lucas Hamilton? Can Durant? Can these players step up and score some points for their team, especially when they've been playing all season without one of their senior leaders and Miles Beauchamp. So, James Varela set some big baskets for him. But who can be consistent in those big tournament games to help Drury get over the hump?
And unfortunately, I've been waiting myself to see Miles Beauchamp, hopefully back. But more than that, because he's a young athlete, and you're only a senior once, John, and they were counting on him, and he averaged double figures last year. So it's really too bad they weren't able to use Miles this year. As you can see, Pioneer Valley still undefeated, 14-0, number 1 in the state. Drury is number 8, Hoosick 11. Lee with a very respectable record at 14-0. And if we can get the boys, there we go, thank you. Lee High School in the Hampshire North, tied with Athol in the conference. In the Tri-County, Duggan Academy, a team that McCann played really, really hard against the other night. Very close ball game, still undefeated. In the boys Hampshire South, Drury second, they're going to finish second in the league. They can do no worse than an 8-4, 11-5 overall. And of course, Monument Mountain in very, very tough Bi-County East. Monument followed by South Hadley, Hoosick Valley, right around the middle of the pack this year. But that's the way we stand as we get closer. And as I said at the beginning of the game, some schools have 1 game left, some have 2, and a few have 3, but no more than that. We get to the 18-game schedule. You're into the month of February. The little Western Mass gig is just around the corner. It just goes by so fast, and then the MIAA final rankings come out, and the top 32 teams in the power rankings will make the tournament. And if you have a better than 500 record, more wins than losses, or even wins with losses, that will get you a spot in the tournament. So we'll see how things work out. I see the Drury boys getting home game as well as the girls. The Hoosick Valley boys, I'm not sure at this time, but I know the girls will, pretty much as they did all last season. When the MIA power rankings concludes, we'll see how that works out.
Especially in those early season games, I should say. It's nice to play at home instead of taking those long trips.
So what we did not mention before we finish with the boys is that Jorge Bon was our choice this week for our Player of the Week. 23 points against Lennox, 15 against Pioneer in the loss. But I'll tell you what, he had a great game last night, and his job was to guard Brandon Thayer. That young man, along with Redeker and McClellan, those kids are lights out. That's an incredible, good basketball team. They run, they pass the ball well, they dribble, drive, right and left hand. They love to pass. They could all shoot the lights out, but that Thayer kid is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Coach Thayer has built a great program at Pioneer, and I think a commentary on Jorge Bon as a player, right? So you hear a lot of attention for him about his scoring or his offensive abilities, but to know he's also taking on the other team's one of their top threats on defense and taking on that challenge, that's what you want. You want these great two-way players. We're going to talk about the top 10 list next week for the boys, and we'd already talked about it for the girls. And the key to that is not just being a one-way player. You want to be an all-time great player. We're going to talk about players that play both ends of the course. Not about scoring. It's about playing the overall game and helping your team win.
Yeah, certainly the Drury offense is built around Jorge Bon. He's the quarterback, and he needs to be on the floor. And congratulations to Jorge for a repeat for Player of the Week. So High School Basketball Weekly, if you want to see this program, of course, it's every Thursday night as you're watching, every Thursday night on Channel 1302 at 7:30 p.m. Replayed twice, every Saturday morning at 10 and every Sunday evening at 7. So for John Franzoni, I'm Rick Wilson. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, don't forget, Hoosick Drury next Tuesday night, February 11th at Drury High School. If you can make it, be glad to see you there. And if not, Channel 1302 at 6:30. Good night for now.